Hi, my name is Miriam Bourdeau. I'm a French-Canadian artist. I'm doing a lot of face painting, body painting, drawing, and sometimes I'm a model for fun. It's my first time as a teacher online, so it's not my cup of tea, but I'm very happy to present you this class. I will teach you how to do a tiger, a butterfly, a bird, and some abstract makeup. It's one of my specialty. So I really enjoy and like doing abstract. It's very liberating. I will use some technique like with the split cake and some lining and how to do a good blending. I hope you will enjoy the class. That's it. So, for my first design, I'm gonna do a tiger on my beautiful model, my niece, Amy. For the first step, I'm using a water-based color from Maroon Paradise and a sponge. For more precision, I'm using an half moon sponge and I cut it into pieces. Or if you prefer, you can use a flat chisel brush too. For my animal design, I'm always using the color white at first. Normally, I use this step to adjust my symmetry, and this will serve as a guide for me to build the rest of the makeup. Normally, I'm using only one load of my sponge to do all the areas. I like to begin my makeup on the eyelids area, as you can see. But if you want to switch the steps, it's okay. You can do as you want. Be careful not to go too far on the cheek and not too high on the upper eyebrow. I'm using these steps to place my ears, and I'm gonna do the upper lip too. It has not to be perfect, but I'm trying to do my best to make a beautiful base, and it's gonna be easier to complete my makeup after that. For the second step, I'm gonna use a large split cake with an half moon sponge. I'm using this to have a fastest result, but if you want, you can use some plain color and blend them together. For this part, I recommend to use light colors, because if you're using too dark colors, it's gonna be hard to complete the next step. First of all, I'm starting at the root of the nose without going over too far over the eyebrows. I'm covering all the nose, and I will paint the two sides of the face. For this part, I'm trying not to exceed the middle of the eye when I'm on the cheek, but on the eyelid, I'm going all the way. If you find that your sponge is too big for the face of the kid, don't hesitate to take a smaller sponge. Or also you can do like me. I'm squeezing my sponge to adapt the size for the face of my models. So I'm trying the best as I can to joint the cheek with the nose. Be careful not to go too far on the cheek or too low, because it will drag the face down and it's not going to be very a pleasant design. As you can see, I forgot the other eyelid because I was very nervous to do the video. So, but you'll see later, I'm gonna correct it. You can see that I'm using the white base to guide me for the ears. At this point, I'm done with the step 2. It's not perfect, but it's okay, because at the step 3, it's where the magic began, and it's the more important part. For this part, I'm gonna use a small split cake, and I choose a similar color for a monochrome result. Feel free if you want to use more complementary colors for a more contrasting result. I'm using a 3/4 flat brush for this step. I recommend to use a split cake with one dark color minimum at one extremity. Keep in mind that you can use the darker color of your split cake as a liner. This will serve as a guide to properly place your finishing lines in the next step. With my split cake, I will contour all the part that I've done before in the step 1 and 2. If you want to do more like a fur effect, use a come and go technique with your brush rather than a clean line like I did. If you have some difficulties to do your ears for the animals, I like to think that it's like a little butterfly wings that you do, and it will help you with the shape. Sometimes I close the ear with another stroke, or in this case, I will let it open to do some fur on the ears. For the middle part, I did the contour in 2 movements instead of just 1 stroke. Normally, I join each side up to the middle. I find it easier to do a good symmetry that way. If you want to be faster, I recommend you to use only 1 color for your split cake. That way, you will not lose time to change your brush and your split cake. For the upper lip, remember what I said, you have to think that the darker color of your brush is like your liner. If you have enough time, you can take your first sponge that you use at the step 1 and blend your stroke up to the middle. But it's very optional. I continue on the lips with the same brush. Normally, I'm trying to do the lips at the end to not reusing my brush. But this time I realized that I didn't do the left eyelid. So I decided to add an extra on the eye, but it's very optional. I will accentuate the eye with my brush. So I'm beginning at the end of the eyebrow. I'm trying to do a nice and clean line. You can keep it that way, but in this case I prefer to do more like a smooth finish. So I will take my sponge and just blend a little bit. I'm really trying to have a good symmetry, so during the process I'm always looking both sides to compare. For your blending, it's important to be fast, because when the paint is dry, it will be really hard to blend properly. And now we are done for the step with the split cake. For this step, I'm using a water-based color, but with a waxy base. You can have a better coverage and a better definition with this kind of paint. And I will use my round brush. It's a size 4, but you can also use a flat chisel brush if you want, or a different size than mine. So I'm adding a little bit of fur on the ear. It doesn't have to be perfect or very, very symmetric, because it will give more realistic result at the end. I'm doing also under the eye. This step is very important because it's where you will clean and correct all the mistakes that you've done under the eye. Your makeup will have more definition and it will really open the eyes of the model. This time I used a white color, but you can also choose to have a complementary color and like a teal or something that it's gonna be very contrasting. And we are done with this step. So for the next, I will take a metallic color. For this one, I choose gold with my filbert brush. If you want your metallic color to be more vibrant, I recommend that you mix some powder with pigment in it. I really like to using my filbert brush for this step, for the metallic colors, because you can do very fine lines, or you can turn the brush and you can do really larger lines. In these steps, I will try to fill the areas that I found a little bit empty. You can also correct the space that you have made mistakes. You can adjust your symmetry, your imperfections. Sometimes I will put a little bit on the middle of the nose, or wherever you want, really. It's up to you and your imagination. For the tiger, I decided to do both sides with fur. It's gonna be a better design because it's gonna fit with the fur on the ears. Be careful not to go over the dark color with your white, because it's gonna blend together and you will have more a grayish white than a pure white. And I'm adding some little teeth. If you want to add some glitter to your makeup, I recommend doing so before moving on the next step. This will allow you to have a much cleaner and less random finish. You will have a better contrast between your liner and your background. So we are almost done. I'm using now a black liner with a round brush. You can use the size you want. Right now I have a size 3. If you have done all the steps properly, it's gonna be very easy to follow all the lines that you already did to finish the makeup. One thing that I like to do is accentuate the contours without completely closing my line. This will bring out the makeup without giving the effect of an image taken from a coloring book. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So now I'm doing some stripes because we're doing a tiger. When I'm doing my stripes, I prefer to do like a little movement with my hand because I want my stripes to be more natural and not very a clean line. I'm trying not to go too far with my stripes and do the same amount of stripes each side. I like to use black for my contour, but it can be very pretty if you're using another color, a dark one. I'm also doing some stripes on the root of the nose. I'm trying not to go too low. And I'm doing 3 little stripes. One on the middle, that I'm doing a little bit longer, and one each side. I connect a little bit on the ears without closing completely my line. So I did 3 stripes on the nose and 3 stripes on each cheek. You can also define the ears. You can add some spirals like I did. I contour all the fur, but I'm doing tiny little lines. And I'm trying to do the same thing the other side. And I'm also doing the cheeks with the same kind of lines. I will stop my lines before the upper lips. I don't connect the two of them. Sometimes I want to accentuate the eyes, so I'm gonna do a big eyeliner to open all the eyes. I will stretch and enlarge the eye by continuing my line of the eyeliner under the eye. As you can see, I didn't go all the way on the eyelid because sometimes kids have little eyes and it can be a mess when they open the eyes if you did your line a little bit too big. Now, for the nose, you can change the size and the shape according to the type of animal that you are gonna do. I like to do one side at a time and connect both sides in the middle. You have to be very careful because it's the part that it tickles the most for some kids. I cover all the nostril. I'll make sure that both sides are the same. Sometimes I'm doing a larger nose when I'm doing more like a dog or a lion. Next, I'm gonna do the middle part of the mouth. For this part, I'm gonna do more like a teardrop than a straight line. I find it more artistic in my taste. And I'm going to connect just a little bit the bottom part. For the sides, I'm going to do the whiskers. I'm doing more like a straight line this time, and I will finish the lines with little dots. I'm contouring the teeth too, just little fine lines. If you want to add an artistic touch at your makeup, you can double your lines. And I will also contour the inner corner of the eye, but once again, I don't connect completely my lines together. At this point, we are pretty much done, but I'm adding a little bit of gold on the lips, a little bit on the ear. You can also add some dots. I like to put them on the large part of my black liner. I recommend to vary the size of the dots. And if you decide to do some line work with your white, I do not recommend to using it as a liner over the black or a dark color. But if you absolutely want to have a light effect over the black, consider using more like a teal color instead of the white. For completing the look, I'm gonna add some glitter. I'm using a gold glitter over the gold that I already done. And we're done. If you follow all the steps we saw together, you can do any animals that you want. Now we will see